to the Dream 100 Show, the epicenter of influence, collaboration, and exponential growth. You're about to discover the power of relationships. Dream 100 relationships. And you're one relationship away from a totally different business and life. This is your host, Michael Tasner.
Hey there, and welcome to this week's edition of the Dream 100 Show. I hope you had a fantastic holiday and that you're not doing too much Black Friday shopping. I wanted to talk about this concept of the tipping point, but the tipping point in tandem with the law or the definition of insanity. So with the Dream 100 framework, we know that we are playing the long game. We are focusing on gaining and nurturing and just warming up 100 key relationships. Whether those key relationships are your Dream 100 press, your Dream 100 clients or customers, or your Dream 100 strategic alliances, referral partners. One of those three audiences, or all three of them if you have lots of budget and lots of time. So we know that we're going to pick one of those and we're going to go all in. We're going to make sure that we are commenting on their social media all the time, that we're just continuing to stay top of mind using all the various tactics that we've discussed. From hitting them up on social media, to email, to direct mail, to gifting, podcasting, additional social outreach, like all the strategies. But there comes a point that one of two completely different things is going to happen. And I've been getting a lot of questions from people around when is the time that I stop? When is the time that I deem a relationship dead in the water that's never going to advance to something, to the place where I feel like I'm just spinning my wheels? Now, the answer is quite delicate because it's one of those situations where we have to make the determination, are we right at that tipping point? Is one more gift, one more outreach, one more handwritten card, one more social post, is one of those going to be that tip to where the relationship then moves? And as I've said in the past, and I've said this not on every episode, but probably every 5 episodes, the biggest mistake that people are making with the Dream 100 framework, if they try to self-implement, is they stop too early. They stop too early. They spend a few months and, didn't hear anything back. So I want to give you a little bit of a framework for you to figure out, are you moving in the right direction to the place where something very well might tip? Or are the relationships you're working, are you just spinning your wheels and they're never going to move? So let me kind of walk you through this framework. So the first thing is, I have a rule that we do not give up on any relationship for 1 year. Now, the only time that we'll make an exception to that rule is if somebody replies back with a blatant, no, I have zero intention, don't reach out to me ever again. Then we're going to take them off a list and we will replace them. That's why with the Dream 100, we typically have a bench of roughly 25 people. So we take someone off the bench, they replace that particular contact. Outside of that, we do not give up for 1 year. Now, that doesn't mean that after a year we stop. Again, I'm going to give you some strategies to figure out if you should stop. But we give it at least a year. And you're saying, well, Michael, a year, I mean, that's a lot of time. If you know all about the tipping point, the whole piece and the whole framework, the whole strategy behind the tipping point is you continue to hit single after single after single, and then something tips. Something all of a sudden moves. And it was that law of inertia, things were building, and you don't necessarily know exactly what is going to make the tipping point, but you do not stop, you do not give up. So rule number one is that we make the assumption that we are going to work these relationships for at least 1 year at minimum, with the only exception if somebody gives us a hard no that's like, don't ever talk to me again. Now, a soft no might be, no, I'm not really interested right now. That, to me, doesn't signify that relationship should come off the list. But you can use your sole discretion on that. So that's rule number one. Rule number two is, as we are executing this strategy, what we're looking for are certain signs. We're looking for certain triggers. We're looking for certain cues. Some of the cues are going to be very easy to spot. So for example, we teach you to be commenting at least 3 to 5 times a week on your Dream 100's social media. 3 to 5 times a week. And as you're commenting with thought out replies, not just, oh, great post, but something that's well thought out. So as we're making these comments on social media, it's going to be very obvious if they engage back, if they like your comment, if they share your comment, if they respond. So what we like to do is we start to build a point structure. And without getting into all of the exact science and the exact details, I'll make it easy to kind of understand. So let's just say if they respond back to you, they get added 2 points. If they like what you responded with, they'll get 1 point. If you send them an email and they write back, we might add 10 points. So as we start to kind of go up the funnel to the place where we're warming them up a little bit and we're getting a little bit more personal with the connection, they start to get higher point values. And it could stack. So you might stack 1 point after 1 point after 1 point, and you start to use different cues. And what we're doing as we're progressing during the course of the year is we're always then ranking all the people that we have on that Dream 100 list to then figure out like who's at a high point value. Is there anyone that has a 0? A 0 would mean they did not like any of your posts during the course of the year. They did not respond to any of your posts. They didn't respond to any of your emails. Now, a 0 also means that you deployed the gifting strategy and you sent gifts and you got no reply. We're going to come back to this in just a second. The gifting piece is absolutely critical to figure out, are you moving in the right direction? So if at the end of the year they have a goose egg, they've responded to nothing, they've not responded to the gifts, they haven't said thank you, nothing, we then will remove those people and start to work in some new people. Now, we keep, it's tough to describe in the sense of we aim to give it 1 year at a minimum, but it does get to that place where you're commenting, you're sending gifts, and you might have invested, let's call it $500, even $1,000 during a 12-month period by way of gifting and then some of your team's time or your time to comment and send emails and all that good stuff. So you're putting in the effort, but after 1 year, our key signifier isn't that they didn't respond to emails or social, but the gifting piece is one of those that even if they have no intention of wanting to have some kind of relationship with you, they're going to at least say thank you. They're going to either shoot you a quick email or a text message. And after the second, third, and even fourth gift, that's to the point where you start borderlining definition of insanity. Now, with everything, there are different kind of rules and exceptions. So this isn't like a perfect playbook. You have to start to use some discretion. And the discretion is, how much is the relationship worth to you? And how challenging is that person to get after? So for example, on my Dream 100 list is Tony Robbins. And I know that that relationship could be worth millions of dollars. Not tens of thousands, not hundreds, but millions of dollars. And I know that he gets lots of gifts during the course of the year, and he travels all the time. So that relationship, to me, knowing that it could be worth millions of dollars, even if at the end of a year, and even if I got 0 response from my initial gifts, that's one of those relationships that I'm going to have to use my discretion and say, I want to give this some more time. There are relationships that I can tell you that I've been working for almost 3 years that have not transpired. And you might say, well, Michael, isn't that the whole point of this podcast? Aren't those people in the definition of insanity where you're continuing and you're just reaching out and nothing is happening? It's one of those where you have to size up, is the relationship one of those relationships that is not only a game changer for your business, but like a game changer for your entire life? That if you were to have that relationship, that one relationship, it would be game over. You would have the most insane business, life, finances. You'd have more money than you know what to do with. In that particular case, I keep rolling with the tipping point, and I keep suggesting to continue to comment on their social media. Doesn't mean that they're not seeing it. Just because they didn't reply, just because they didn't like it, it does not mean they didn't see it. Maybe all of their emails that they've received from you have all went to spam. So there's a lot of different exceptions that you have to keep in mind. But when I'm starting to then get to the place where I've got to make some decisions, do I remove some of these people? Do I completely stop the outreach? For me, that gifting piece is usually the biggest sign. As I said, it's extremely rare that somebody will not at least say thank you. Thank you so much for the gift. It was unnecessary and it's very appreciated. At least you're going to get something there. So if you continue to send those gifts, it's one of those where you want to have some kind of hard stop, because as you know, I prefer marketing math. I want everything to be a math equation. Now, the good thing is with the Dream 100, we've built it into a math equation where if you work this strategy during the course of a 12-month period and you deploy it exactly as I teach it, that's the challenge, is that everyone deviates. I think I know better. I know a different way to automate this. I'm going to send one generic gift. If you deviate, the math is irrelevant because you're not working the system that I've taught you, the system that I know works 100% of the time when deployed correctly. That's the secret sauce. But we know that during the course of 12 months, you will typically, on average, land between 2 and 4 of your Dream 100 relationships. If you are getting to a place where nobody is replying to anything, no emails, you're keeping track of the points, and you've got 90 people on your list that are at a 0, that to me is one of those where you have to pause and you have to look at the activities. It most likely is not the definition of insanity just yet. You probably have emails going to spam. You're messing something up within the strategy. So if you're getting goose eggs for the lion's share of your relationships, you are not deploying something correctly, because that just doesn't happen. You have to relook at your messaging, the email servers that you're using, the gifts that you're sending. Something is not being deployed correctly. When we look at it, we're able to get cues during the year. And again, those cues are going to be responses to your social media posts, emails back, likes of the comments that you're leaving on their social media, a thank you text message, for example. You're going to get those cues that say, hey, I'm open, like let's keep this going. And from there, we continue. So if we're getting a little bit of hints every now and then past a year, we keep them on our list. We keep them on our list. We continue the gifting strategy unless we get to a place where we have sent 8 gifts, so 2 years worth of gifts, once a quarter, and we've gotten no replies on the gifts. We remove the relationship. So yes, again, you want to use your discretion, but for us, 1 year minimum, 2 years of no replies to gifts, we take them off the list, and then we bring somebody else in the bench. But it's that tough kind of gray area where you need to continue to always use your discretion. If you just continue to say, well, this is the definition of insanity, nobody's replying to anything, this isn't working, you go through the checklist. How long have you been at this? Well, I've been at it for a week. Try a year, then come back and talk to me. You have to make sure you're putting in the time, you're going through the motions. And I've had too many of our listeners that have reached out and said, Michael, nothing's happened, it's been 30 days. Am I just spinning my wheels? Is this just not going to work? Longevity, continue to think about the tipping point. The tipping point is a lot more at play here than the definition of insanity. The only time that, again, I've seen the definition of insanity is if we have someone that responds to absolutely nothing for 1 year, so 0 points, no responses to gifts, and if they are a solid relationship that we really want, we're going to give it another year. And then from there, we say, this is the definition of insanity. We're cutting that relationship off. But I gotta get you to continue to play the long game. Continue to play the long game. Know that these relationships will start to tip. And if you reverse engineer the math and you know that I'm telling you that at least 2 to 4 of these people will turn into Dream 100 relationships within a 12-month period, and by definition, a Dream 100 relationship has to be able to double your business, you've got to put in the effort. You got to put in the time. Michael Tasner signing off. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. I'll see you next week.